What's up, fellas? This is my Path of Exile build for Hardcore. I made it very noob friendly for anyone new to Hardcore. I'll be using the Spectral Shield Throw skill with the Gladiator Ascendancy, along with cheap uniques and easy to craft items. First, I'm going to explain the Ascendancies and which ones I grabbed first and which ones I grabbed last. Start off, I went with Determined Survivor to get the most chance to block in the beginning, early on in the story. With all the nodes you'll be grabbing, you'll have a capped chance to block throughout the entire story. Next, I went with More Than Skill. This is just more chance to block attack damage and spell damage. Next, I went with Gratuitous Violence, so that all the bleeding enemies you kill explode. This is especially nice for clear speed. And as my last ascendancy, I went with Jagged Technique. This is more damage in general, and it helps with bossing since this build is relatively weak when it comes to boss damage. The most important thing in Hardcore is tankiness. And the reason why we are so tanky is because we have many defensive layers. The most important one though is chance to block, which our ascendancy improves by re-rolling the chance to block and going with the best outcome, which is caused by the More Than Skill ascendancy. Another defensive layer we have is armor and evasion rating, our high amount of overcap resistances, our reduced damage from critical strikes, and our life regen, which comes from our belt, and Stone Golem, which gives life regeneration and increased defenses, which also increases our armor and evasion rating. I'm also grabbing a lot of life nodes for maximum life, which allows us to take a bigger hit from enemies. And this also goes with the cast when damage taken setup with a Mortal Call. We can tank the initial hit, and the hits after that will have less physical damage taken and less elemental damage taken. I also grabbed endurance charges on the skill tree to have endurance charge keep up, which allows us to take even less damage. And if the endurance charge keep up from kills is not enough, I have Enduring Cry to steal endurance charges from enemies and also grant more life regeneration. Forgot to mention, for cast when damage taken support and Immortal Call, you want to keep Immortal Call at level 3 and cast when damage taken at level 1. This is because cast when damage taken support only supports level 38 or lower at this low level. If it were to be level 20, it would take like 3000 total damage from hits to trigger the spell, and we want it to be less damage than that, and level 3 on Immortal Call so that the requirement level is level 38. I recommend crafting your own items. They are relatively cheap to craft, and the fractures are incredibly cheap this league. What you need to look for is life, armor and evasion rating, and general resistances. It's pretty much the same thing on each piece of my armor. As you can see, a lot of these are not even that good. The shield could be better. I kept it because I managed to get high rolls on the armor and evasion rating. And since armor and evasion rating is my damage, I decided to just keep this. The only hard item to craft in this build would be the weapon, but it is actually pretty simple. It looks complicated, but it's pretty simple. All you need is a one-handed weapon, either axe, rapier, maul, or sword with the warlord influence. And then you can either alt spam to get increased physical damage over time, or fortification craft with the physical reforge for increased physical damage over time, and then craft onto it increased damage over time, or if you have it unlocked, physical damage over time. And that's pretty much all you have to do. Attack speed is nice to have on it too, but that's the only other good modifier that I can currently think of that'll upgrade this even more. My skills, I'm using Pride and Eternal Blessing support so that it doesn't reserve any of my life, because I'm using Blood Magic for more maximum life, and since I have enough regeneration, my skills won't ever touch my life. I won't make it ever go below max. I'm also using Resolute Technique so that my hits always hit. That also makes it so that we don't need to target accuracy rating, or critical strikes, since most of our damage comes from bleeding and bleeding explosions anyways. I'm also using Iron Grip just for some extra damage. But most of my damage does come from these little shield nodes and the big ones that do increase damage while holding a shield. The massive node that does steal base physical damage is the Physical Mastery with more maximum physical attack damage. It also gives physical damage over time, which is very helpful. And rest, we're just grabbing all of the bleed nodes and life nodes. And some extra evasion rating and armor. For my 6th link, I'm going with Spectral Shield Throw, of course, Vicious Projectile support, Swift Affliction support, Volatility support, Cruelty support, and Brutality support. For my movement skill, I'm going with Shield Charge, Faster Attack support, and Culling Strike support. This is so that I can one-tap the bosses when they're at 10% or lower. It's just theoretically more boss damage. I also have the Flame Dash. This is more of just a panic button. I haven't had to really use it yet, but there's a panic button if you need to get out of a situation even quicker. I also have Urgent Orders, more duration support, and Enduring Cry. And for my Stone Golem, I have Minion Life support, Meat Shield support, Summon Stone Golem, and Vulnerability in case bosses are too hard to kill. I can put this on and it'll make it just a little bit easier. Before you unlock Spectral Shield Throw, I recommend going with Splitting Steel, Chance to Bleed, and Faster Attacks with auras like Flesh and Stone using the Sand Stand, and Precision, and for your movement skill, the Dash or the Shield Charge. When you do unlock Resolute Technique, which makes it so that your hits always hit and you can't deal critical strikes, you take off Precision and turn on Purity of Elements. And then whenever you can, get the Lahoop of All, the Immortal Flesh, and the Prismatic Eclipse Twilight Blade. Getting currency this league early on, in the story even, is very easy. Just do the league mechanic, it gives a lot of XP too. Just take your time, get your resistances early, and you should be fine. And also do your Ascendancy early. Your Ascendancy, as soon as you get your Ascendancy, you'll be extremely tanky. And when you unlock Blood Magic, you should switch to Eternal Blessing and Pride. And whenever you can do this before or even after, add the Immortal Call setup. I do recommend adding this as soon as possible. I'm also using Decoy Totem. I think I forgot to mention that. Decoy Totem, just to distract enemies if necessary. Works on bosses pretty well as well. If you have any questions on the build, don't hesitate to ask in the comments section below. If you're curious on what the build looks like in action in any stage of its progress, I streamed the entire run with my friend Programming Guy. There are also POBs in the description of each stream. If you want to see more hardcore PoE content, click that subscribe button because I will be starting a new character soon. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.